salesperson, okay? The price concern, okay? We don't have the money for this. All right, so let's put that up here. We don't have the money. It could be money. They could say funds. They could say budget. It just all depends on if you sell B2C or B2B. If you're selling B2B, it's probably going to be, we don't have the budget. If you're selling B2C, a lot of times they're going to say, we don't have the money. But it could be either or, okay? Who wants to learn how to resolve this one? So let me give you an example of how this might look. This first one I'm going to give you is deliberately generic so that you can easily plug in your own industry and tailor it to the product or service that you sell. And then I'll give you a few industry-specific examples so you can see how it boils down. The prospect says, you know, we really like your product, but yeah, at this time we don't have the money for it. Or at this time we just can't afford it. You say, yeah, that's not a problem. Tell me if you did have the funds or the money. Tell me if you did have the money, or tell me if you did have the funding, or tell me if you did have the budget. Would this be something that would work for you? So let me break this down. Tell me if you did have the funding, is this something that would work for you? Now, if you've asked the right questions in that conversation, most of them are going to say, yeah, it would. Or they're going to say, yes, it would, but, and then they're going to throw out their concern. Okay, Dan, did you notice how I paused there? Did you notice how I paused? That's not a problem, Amy. Tell me, if you did have the funds, is this something that would work for you? Prospect most of the time would say, yeah, it would. Or, yeah, I would, but, and then they'll tell you their concern, their objection. Or, yeah, I would, but we don't have the money, okay? Then you're going to say this. Let's say if they just say, yeah, it would, and they don't throw out the money concern right there, and they say, yeah, it really would. You say, okay, but why do you feel like it would, though? Why do you feel like it would, though? Okay? You see my skepticism in my face right there, in my tone? Prospect says, well, we like it, but we just don't have the money for it. Now, let's roll back. Let's say they say, yeah, it would, but we just don't have the money. Here's what you'd want to say to that. Yeah, it really would, James, but we just don't have the money. Well, money aside, why do you feel like it would, though? See how I just did that? Well, money aside, why do you feel like it would, though? And they're going to start telling you why they feel it's what they're looking for. Now, why would you want them to tell you why it's what they're looking for? Because at the same time, they're telling who? They're telling themselves why it's what they're looking for. And then you're going to ask this question. Yeah, and I can appreciate that money might be an issue from what you told me. How do you think you can resolve that where you can find the funds so that you can, and then you're going to plug in what they said they wanted? And we'll have that up here somewhere. How do you think you can resolve that where you can find the money so that you can, and then you plug in what they said they wanted, okay? You're tying them, getting the funding, the money, with having what they said they wanted. If they can get the funding, they get what they want. If they can't get the funding, they don't get what they want. See how you get them to think the funding gets them to where they want to be, which it does. If they can't get the funding, then they don't get what they want. Now, many times when you ask them this question, because of the trust they have in you, they will be the ones that come up with ways on how they can get the funds together once you learn NEPQ. Now, when you do this correctly, they'll think about maybe using a credit card, getting a loan, refinancing their house, borrowing from the 401, investments, or getting their boss to take money from a different department to invest in your solution. It all depends on what you sell, whether it's B2C or B2B. Now, if they cannot come up with ways on how they can get the money, you simply ask this question. Okay, but what other Jeremy, I just don't know. I don't know if I can get the funding. You take them through that, and I ask them, how do you think you can overcome that to find the funding? They're like, I don't know. I just don't have anything. Then you ask this. Well, what other avenues do you have to find the funding so that you can? And once again, you're going to fill in the second thing they said they wanted. Okay? Now, let me give you a few examples so you can see me do this. Now, we train, like I said, over 150 different industries. I wish I could show you all the examples to you, but I'm just going to give you a few today. Here's one for this. Let's say if you sold home security systems. Well, what other avenues do you have to find the funding to protect your home and your family from intruders breaking in when you're out of town? What other avenues do you have to find the funds to protect your home and family from intruders that might break in while you're out of town? Let's say if you sell health coaching or supplements. Well, what other avenues do you have to find the funding to be able to lose this 90 pounds so, like you mentioned, you can watch your grandkids grow up if that's what they said they wanted? Let's say if you sell rental or commercial properties. Well, what other avenues do you have to find the funding to purchase this rental property so you get a greater return on your money? See, I'm tying in the end result with the money. If they get the money, they get what they want. If they can't get the money, they don't get what they want. Let's say you're a real estate agent. Well, what other avenues do you have to find the funding to get the down payment so that you get your family into this safer neighborhood, if that's what they said they wanted? Let's say if you're selling lead services or marketing to companies, more of a B2B sale. Well, what other avenues do you have to find the funding to start getting the higher quality of lead so that your salespeople make more sales for you? Let's say if you sold life insurance, okay? It doesn't really matter, you just plug it in. Well, what other avenues do you have to find the funds so that your family's financially protected when you do pass away? Let's say you sold cybersecurity to businesses or banks, more of a B2B complex sound environment. Well, what other avenues do you have to find the funds so that you're able to protect your customers from fraud and all that business? See how that works? I'm also going to give you an industry-specific example the whole way through so you see how the structure works, and then you plug in what you sell. Just plug in your product or service here. In this example, the salesperson is selling e-commerce training, okay? The prospect says, hey, we really like this, but we just don't have the money. No, that's not a problem. Tell me, if you did have the funds, is this something that would work for you? Notice how I paused there. Oh, well, for sure if we have the funds. Well, hold on. Why do you feel like it is, though? Okay. Did you hear my tone? Just like if you're a Hollywood actor or actress, okay? Just practice that. You have to role play to memorize the questions, okay? Because then it sounds natural. Okay, but why do you feel like it is, though? Or if they say, well, I do, but I just don't have the money. You say, well, money aside, why do you feel like it would, though? See how we did that? Well, money aside, why do you feel like it would? Oh, I would because of blah, 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 blah. Okay, and I can appreciate that money might be an issue from what you told me. I guess, how do you think you can resolve that where you can find the funding so that you start making profits in your stores? If that's what they wanted, right? They want to buy the e-commerce training to learn how to profit from their stores. I'm tying that in. If they get the money, they get the training, they make money. If they can't get the money, they don't get the right training, they don't make money. If that's what you sell, okay? If they still can't figure it out, well, what other avenues do you have to find the funding so you can start the business so you can make more money? If that's what they want, okay? If they still can't come up with ways, have you ever considered putting it on a credit card or just paying it off when you start making profits after we set everything up with you? Or you could say it this way. Can I make a suggestion? Well, they'll be like, yeah, you sure can. Go ahead. What I can do is show you the avenues that our other clients use to get the funding if they don't have it themselves. And you'll have to see if you have those options if you're wanting to, start your own business where you can make more money. Notice how I'm plugging in what they said they wanted. Start a business where they can make more money. Now, after you go through the ways that your other clients find the funds, you simply ask at the end of that, and what are those avenues do you have? Okay? Now, here's the complete generic version again. Once again, you're going to plug in what you sell to the structure, and you can follow along with me here in the manual. That's not a problem. You always say that's not a problem in the beginning. If they give you that's not a problem. Tell me, if you did have the funding, is this something that would work for you? Oh, it would for sure, blah, blah, blah. Well, hold on. Why do you feel like it would, though? Well, because of this, because of that. Okay, and I can appreciate that money might be an issue from what you said. Tell me, how do you think you can resolve that so you can repeat back what they said they wanted? Well, I don't know if I have any, blah, blah. Well, what other avenues do you have to find the budget so that you can? And you repeat back the second thing they wanted. If they still can't come up with the avenues, then you can make a suggestion by this. Can I make a suggestion, Amy? Yeah, go ahead. And you would simply suggest what other clients of yours do to find the funding to solve the problem. All right.